keynote of Victory Year is sounded as the North Nova Scotia Highlanders of Canada plant their regimental standard on German soil, their first foothold in the Reich. The turn of the year in northern Italy sees the 1st Canadian Corps battling the enemy and the weather. Forcing the Lamone River crossing, they make a determined drive up to the Senio. In the snow-choked Apennines, mule trains supply forward positions as the slow advance to Ferrara continues. On the Western Front, too, Old Man Winter bogs down operations with a deep blanket of snow. Having driven several bridgeheads over the Moss River, the weather enforces a static period. Regrouping is accomplished for further advances. The lines of communication are held intact by the RCE, who keep the river constantly open. The enemy's threat to the great bridges is removed by continual vigilance and by devices well known to men from Canada's Northland. Combat troops spend the time in ceaseless patrols. Attacks are made which solidify the front and straighten the line opposite the enemy. Camouflage canoe commandos paddle to the assault on Kapelski Beer. Pockets of resistance west of the Maas are one by one eliminated. Anti-aircraft forces concentrate on the menace of flying bombs directed by the enemy against the vital supply base of Antwerp. Science combines with gunnery skill in defeating the attacks. Determined Nazi attempts to close the port fail. The great volume of supplies necessary to the launching of the spring drive continue to pour in. Rations, petrol, and ammunition in abundance rolls along the supply routes in preparation for the last great offensive. The jumping-off point for the Rhine drive becomes a mighty storehouse. Nijmegen is loaded to capacity with the wherewithal for war. Well covered by a magic carpet of smoke, the great spring offensive gets underway early in February. A typical artillery barrage designed before faraway Alamein softens up the opposition with a mighty hail of lead. The steamroller of the 1st Canadian Army gains momentum as it fights its way mile by mile steadily toward the Rhine. Going down in history as Prera's inland navy, the attacking force in Holland lived their days aboard amphibious vehicles. A retiring enemy has blown most of the dikes and flooded the countryside. Engineers blow up obstructions in an attempt to drain off the water. Through a drowned land which will take years to reclaim, the Canadians and buffaloes and ducks sail forward to battle. On German soil, Field Marshal Montgomery holds his first investiture. Described by General Prera as probably the toughest action for Canadian troops, the cleanup of the Hochwald Forest gets underway. Breaking out from Nijmegen, the 1st Canadian Army drives south towards the Rhine. Taking in its stride Cleve, Calcar, Sonsbeek, and Xanten, it straightens out the hard way what was a bulge in our lines. In the fighting in this area, 2 Canadians were awarded the Victoria Cross. Major Fred Tilston lived to receive it. Sergeant Cousins' award was posthumous. In Italy, March sees one of the greatest surprise moves of the war. The 1st Canadian Corps leaves northern Italy and embarks for France. Here they travel overland to link up with their comrades of the 1st Canadian Army. Britain's Prime Minister Winston Churchill visits forward Canadian positions as the momentous attack across the Rhine commences. Reversing the usual procedure, Montgomery throws in his ground forces without an airborne spearhead. The enemy rushes his deeply held reserves up to meet the threat. Then hours after, airborne troops sweep in from the sky. The result is a supreme tactical advantage which is pressed home by the wily commander. Caught between 2 fires, the enemy meets defeat. Soon the ground and airborne forces thoroughly establish themselves on the Rhine's east bank. In the action, a medical orderly of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion, Corporal Topham, wins the VC. The engineers keep the supply lines across the Rhine open by constructing giant Bailey bridges while under constant fire from the enemy. With their supply bases consolidated, the 1st Canadian Army strikes out in a 2-prong offensive. The 1st Canadian Corps hits with a left hook designed to clear northern Holland. Knocking aside enemy resistance, they move into a scene which recalls the heroic British airborne attack of 1944, Arnhem. From Arnhem, the thrust through Holland clears Deventer, Zutphen, and Apeldoorn. Scenes of wild rejoicing meet our forces as they liberate town after town until finally, units of 5th Div reach the Zuiderzee. Many grim tasks are taken over by the second prong of the attack. 2 Canadian Corps liberate Stalag 6C. Scenes of Nazi bestiality will be forever engraved on a world shocked by their findings. In the north, 21 Army Group links up with the forces of Russia. The last day of German power has dawned. On the 5th of May, under the pressure of our arms, the Wehrmacht collapses. The unconditional surrender is accepted of all Nazi troops in northwest Europe. Germany's power is forever kaput.
Today is Victory in Europe Day. Long live the cause of freedom. God save the King.
VE Day dawns. In London, capital of empire, Canadian service people join their British buddies in the celebration of the great day. London lived in the front lines. London rejoices in the defeat of a foe who came too close to their homes. Hollanders, too, have real cause for celebration. They have felt the iron heel on their necks for many years. Belgium goes wild with delight as the news that the grim struggle is over. Across the sea in Canada, victory is celebrated from coast to coast. The first Canadian post-war act is to rush supplies into northern Holland. Under German occupation, much of the populace had reached the starvation level. At the same time, a wilted Wehrmacht is deported as quickly as possible. First, they are disarmed. Never again will they play the role of conquering heroes. Members of the Canadian Provo Corps make them disgorge the loot they have collected through the years in the Netherlands. The master race have met their masters. To police them, the 3rd Division becomes the Canadian Army Occupational Force. Seyss-Inquart, the hated Nazi governor of Holland, is captured. General Blaskowitz is arrested, as is the first war criminal to be tried by a Canadian court, Brigade Führer Kurt Meyer. Charged with being responsible for the shooting of Canadian prisoners of war under his charge, Meyer is later in the year convicted and sentenced to be shot. In June, the Dominion federal election is held. Field polling booths give every Canadian service person a chance to cast a vote. The Liberal Party is returned to power. Canadian troops in London celebrate a peacetime Dominion Day. The royal family attend a special service in Westminster Abbey in honor of the occasion. Berlin, Germany sees the glorious end of a great crusade as troops of the United Nations hold a grand victory parade. Prime Minister Churchill takes the salute from a representative group of Canadian veterans. Volunteers for service in the Far East concentrate in Nijmegen. They return to Canada to be incorporated in the 6th Canadian Division for service against Japan. In Holland, after a hard-fought campaign, the emphasis is on recreation. Battle-weary troops bask in the summer sunshine of many a smart club, as some await repat and others are on leave from the CAOF. In the Far East, the atom bomb is used with devastating effect against the mainland of an already defeated Japan. As VJ Day is announced, the same scenes of revelry which characterize VE Day are once again enacted in the city of London. In the faraway Pacific Theater, the Japanese warlords surrender unconditionally, while in Canada, the 6th Division, designed for service in the East, is disbanded. After writing a glorious page in the annals of Canadian military history, General Ferrara returns to Canada, where he is welcomed and feted by a grateful nation. Into Vancouver Harbor come other homecoming warriors. They are Canadian prisoners of war taken in Hong Kong. They too are mighty glad to see Canadian shores. In the United Kingdom, Field Marshal Montgomery opens Carkey University of Canada, designed for the education of servicemen while in Britain. In Aldershot, the freedom of the city is presented to Canadian troops by the mayor as a gesture of goodwill from the people of Britain. Field Marshal Sir Harold Alexander, under whose command Canadian troops fought in the Italian campaign, is selected as the new Governor-General of Canada. For many members of the Canadian Army, Victory Year means the end of soldiering and a return to Civvy Street. Many more will stay until the job is finished or until transport is available to carry them across the Atlantic. The repatriation schedule is operating in high gear. Loading by day and by night, by aircraft carrier, troop ship, destroyer, or stately liner, Canadian service people are returning to their own shores. As they leave the momentous year 1945 behind them, all know the triumph they bought with their confidence will mean a leading place for Canada in the world of tomorrow.